100%. So she had been already president of Chile, then she finished her term, then she became UN woman, the president, and then she went back to Chile and won the elections again. We knew she was going to push for abortion because after being the head of the UN woman who pushes for abortion all over the world, it would be like unheard of that her own country did not allow for abortion in Chile. So actually, Chile did not allow for any case. It was the only country in Latin America that was pretty much no. So she presented the law, and she said she thought it was going to be very easy for it to go through Congress. But the Chileans got together, and they started doing very different demonstrations that I had not seen anywhere else. We're going to have the March for Life next week, and it's an incredible march. But what they did here was very different because they not only had like a big march of everyone, they actually had little events that represented all of the different sectors. So they had a march of doctors saying, we don't want to have to perform abortions. We went to medical school to save lives, not to kill. There was also another one of nurses, another one of pregnant women, another one of students, another one of teachers. So they were showing to the president and to the whole country that it was not just a little group of people, the typical, they call us the pro-lifers. It was like every sector in society that did not agree with this law, and they would just not stop. They kept going. The students of medicine, the abortion does not cure anything. So they gave great messages, and they also had other ways of kind of shaming the congressmen and congresswomen that were going to vote for abortion. They had a huge bus with the big pictures of every congresswoman, every congressman that was going to vote for abortion, and they just rode all over the city of Santiago. Because this is important, this is accountability. We have to know who's voting how and why, because in the end they're representing me. And then they also did this huge, they did a lot of representative things of candles, and then just doing like a big circle of life. They also gave a lot of different conferences and forming people, like letting them know, why is this important? Why do we have to move? And they didn't stop. They did it like for around 2.5 years, and they did not stop. Like every month, I would see it on Facebook. They had, now we're doing this. We have this video. We have these mothers that had really hard pregnancies, because you always get all of that from the other side. Like what happens with this mom who's pregnant, but then she has cancer, and then she has to choose or her life or the baby, because if they're telling her she has to have an abortion or she cannot have chemotherapy. They always have all of these, so very hard examples, but I'm sorry, that's not the majority. But they also had a video of women that went through that, and they had to decide on that, and they said, I went with the life of my baby and I don't regret it. So they had a lot of really powerful messages. They also used a lot of the social media that we're using right now with Facebook Live, and took advantage of all of that. And it's very important, all of the input that we can have. If anyone has a great idea, like, let's do this logo or it's great. Let's just keep giving the message. Okay, and then we have the case in Peru too. I don't know if you saw it last year. They were also trying to legalize abortion there. It has not gone through. But the bishop called all the people, like, we have to have a huge march to demonstrate that we don't want this. Peru is not such a big country, and they got 500,000 people on the march. And it was incredible to see the pictures of all the people marching. And again, it's peaceful, it's happy. I don't know if any one of you has been to the March for Life. If you haven't, it's a great experience. It's cold, but it's worth it. So these are the pictures of the march. You can see that was in Peru. So this is happening in Latin America. Has anyone seen this in the news? Why isn't this in the news? This is all great news. This is people asking for what they want in their own countries. But we did see the news from women yesterday. We can talk about it later. But But all of these great news, they're not there. So if you want to learn about these things happening, you actually have to go on social media and like there are different groups. Like you can look for Pro Vida Argentina, Pro Vida Peru, Pro Vida, and then you'll get all the feed of the work that they're doing. And we can really learn a lot and get ideas to implement here too. So the importance also of the bishops in these countries in Latin America, because we're majority Catholic, and the government knows that if the bishops say no or yes, it's going to have an impact in all of the population. So maybe it's not the same as here that we have a little bit of more diversity, but in Latin America, the government still looks up a lot to do what the bishop is going to say. So we've had also great experiences and leadership from the bishops in Latin America that have stood up, like that bishop in Peru that said no, and he was on the front of the march. And then I don't know if you saw this case in the United States of all these videos to show how Planned Parenthood really works. I don't know if any of you saw or heard about it. So this was genius. A group of 5-10 people got together, young people, and decided we have to uncover what Planned Parenthood is really doing, because they get millions upon millions of dollars of our taxes and of other big corporations like Coke and Starbucks. Don't go to Starbucks. It's hard, but they give money to Planned Parenthood. And they just decided to do this fake. It was not real, but they just decided to show up like if they were trying to buy fetal tissue to Planned Parenthood people in different states. It wasn't just in one, it was in many different states that they kind of made the experiment, like what are they going to say? And it got to the point where they were really like negotiating brains of aborted fetuses, like how much would it be for the head? How much would it be for this other kind of tissue? Like just like that, talking on a dinner table, like if it was nothing. And so they did all of this covered up project. It took I think 1 or 2 years of doing all of this in video without them knowing, what they were doing. And then in the end, they released the videos one by one, and each one got worse and worse and worse. The last ones I just couldn't even see, because then there was a woman that used to work with Planned Parenthood saying how she saw the baby parts, how they would tell her, oh, it's $10 for this, and then it's 20, like that. That's Planned Parenthood. And even after all of that, and it went through Congress, Senate, and the House, Obama vetoed defunding Planned Parenthood after those videos. So that's why it's very important to be informed and to know and to call my congressman, hey, how are you going to vote in favor of keep giving my money that I earn, because I pay my taxes, and then you give it to this organization that is doing this? So it's very, very important to be informed and to do, whenever I get an email like, please sign this, there, and you think it doesn't make a difference, but it really does. It does make a difference to make a phone call, to sign a letter. If I can go into my local, like all the congressmen and senate will have a local office wherever you live. You can also go and leave a letter. I know it will take time of my day and all my routine and all that I have to do, but I think in the end, if we all did it, this would not be happening anymore, because we're majority. You saw it on those interviews. They were asking them in New Jersey, what do you think about this? And everyone was like, no. So it's common sense. It's just common sense, but this is not going to be in the news. This is not going to be told to us just like openly like that. So we really have to be more responsible and more active into doing a little bit more for the most innocent. They can't talk, they can't defend themselves. We have to be the ones doing it. And again, I don't have to have a degree on anything. Anyone can do it. So then also they got really good campaigns because of this thing with Planned Parenthood on a lot of pro-life organizations. I love that one of Save the Baby Humans, because I don't know if you've seen all of the, Save the Whales and the turtles and all of that, the pandas. And yes, I mean, we wanna take care of the environment and all of these species that are in extinction, but what about our own selves? So I thought it was genius that they decided, like, let's use the animals, save the baby humans. Like, what are you talking about? No, can we go back? So, and then how Planned Parenthood got back with all of these videos that were a huge scandal. Of course, it was a very, very big scandal of how are they selling baby parts? Like, they said, well, no, we actually don't do that. We help women and we do other kinds of practices, not only abortion. We do mammographies, we scan for cancer, and they started giving all of this information that wasn't really true. So then they decided to show, okay, total, if we stop giving to Planned Parenthood the money, it's the yellow underneath. That's the offices that they have. And then on top, it's all the other clinics that there are in the United States that actually provide for all the scanning for cancer and all the other services that are needed for women's health. Yes, we don't want to get rid of that, of course not. But okay, if we don't give money to Planned Parenthood, it's not the end of the world. So this was very graphic also to see how, I'm sorry, we don't need to give them the money. And if they want to keep going, they can just fund their own selves, like we all have to, So again, from something very negative can come very positive campaigns and very positive also, again, for people to realize what's happening. So yeah, they were actually having those Save the Baby Humans as bumper stickers that I feel like it would be so cool to have because it just really hits you. Like, what are we doing? Okay. So now we're going to a little bit of a crude reality of, in our community, how many women have an abortion. So these are statistics by race. So 36% of women total that have an abortion are white, black is 30%, and Hispanics is 25%. So we're high up there. And then 9% is all of the rest of the other minorities. And then from that total, also I want to make a distinction of 37% of the women that had abortion are Protestants, but 28% are Catholic. So these are women that actually believe in God. Protestant or Catholic, doesn't matter, but they still get to go and have an abortion. And it's not, most of the time it's not because they're evil. They get into a position where they think they don't have any other choice, and that's not true. There's always another choice. So, but whenever you think you're in a difficult time and you are pregnant, maybe you're not married, you don't have the money, I'm finishing my studies, and my friend tells me get an abortion, and my mom tells me get an abortion, and my boyfriend tells me get an abortion, and then I go to Planned Parenthood and they tell me get an abortion. What do you think this woman's going to do? So this has a lot to do with the community. What are we doing as a community for the women that have an unexpected pregnancy? Do we have a group to help them out? Do we, instead of gossiping around, el chisme, se embarazó, we love that, but it's wrong. It's the other way around. Oh, she's pregnant. What are we going to do? How are we going to help? The dad is going to kill her. I'm going to go and help her out, because we know. We know what the parents are going to say, or it's my niece, or it's my sister, or it's my friend, So we do have to get out of our way, because the other side will be there for sure to tell her to have an abortion. So what am I going to do to make sure that does not happen to her? Okay, these are the real reasons, like also they have their statistics of why are women getting an abortion. So 3/4 said that they are worried that they have other responsibilities. Maybe they already have 3, 4, 5 kids, or they're taking care of their elderly parents, or something like that. Another 3/4 said that they don't have the money to bring up the kid. Another 3/4 say that the child sadly intervenes with their work, education, or any other important thing in their life in the moment. And then the other half say that they don't want to be a single mom, or they have problems with their husband or whoever they're with at the moment. And then, so these are the reasons why. And then it's very important also to realize that women think that if they have contraception, there's no way they're going to get pregnant. That's not true, because 51% of women that have an abortion used contraception, and they still got pregnant. So if I know my friend is having sex with a guy who is not even really a great guy, but she's having fun, but she's having contraception, what am I going to say? Just have fun? Because with this statistic, we know she might get pregnant very easily. And then most of the contraception that they would have used will be condoms, 27%, or the pill, that will be 17%. So again, don't feel like because you're taking contraception you're going to be safe, because you're not. Or my daughter, oh, she's having contraception, I won't worry. No, you're going to be a grandma. Which will be great, but if you're not prepared, or your daughter is not prepared, or your son, very important, men, once this happens, run away. No, now you stay, and you pay until this kid is 18 years old. So it is very important to have all of this in mind before we get to the point of, chin, ¿ahora qué? No? Okay. So I had thought about proposing a zero kind of tolerance campaign, that all Planned Parenthoods or any clinic that does abortions in our communities should close, because no one's going. Because we're opening our hearts, our homes, and our purses to make sure all the Latino women that are pregnant, that weren't expecting it, that she shouldn't have, and blah, 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 and I understand, but the baby's first. We want to make sure all of this close in our communities. In every Latino community, it should be no abortion centers. Because we love life, and because we know how to confront this. Because everyone in our family, we have the story of whoever. And now this baby, boy or girl, is in the university, or has been the best blessing for the family, or it can become like this burden, and what am I going to do, and how am I going to pay? All of that gets solved. More if the community intervenes, if the community is there. If we do not, point fingers at the single mom, because she was brave enough to have that baby in this culture where really it's heroic. So it would be great if by 2060, that we're going to be 30% of the population, there's no abortion in our communities, that they don't even dare to put a clinic because they know they're not going to make any money. And just to finish, to remember why all of these fights, and why we want to give our time, we want to give, getting prepared ourselves because of this. And of course, we have the greatest John Paul II and Mother Teresa. We're so blessed to have lived in their times, because they taught us all of this. So John Paul said, give us the grace when the sacredness of life before birth is attacked, to stand up and proclaim that no one ever has the authority to destroy unborn life. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Pilar. That was amazing. And a beautiful message about protecting life and women. And we want to take questions now for Pilar. You can write, we have slips of paper. They should have been on your chairs. And there's some pencils going around, so feel free to jot down a question. And we'll take some for Pilar.
Our volunteers are going to be going around picking up your questions. Also, if you're tuning in from the live stream, si están con nosotros por medio del internet, pueden mandar sus preguntas a la señora Pilar Calva por medio del canal de YouTube o por medio de nuestra página en Facebook. If you're tuning in through the live stream, you can send in your questions via the YouTube channel. Just go ahead and post them there, and we'll address your questions. For those of you here, our volunteers are picking up those questions. So it'll be just a couple of moments here. Thank you for your patience. And thanks again to Pilar for the talk. It was a very good talk that gave us a global perspective. Yeah, and also made it very personal and showed us that this does affect us personally. It affects our communities, and we can do something about it. We really can. It's in our power. And there is no time like now, that there's a sense of urgency, and the pro-choice movement is feeling the sense of urgency. And you can see that in the way that they're responding with vigor, almost a desperation to hurry up and reinforce this into our culture. And that means that progress has been made, and so we should be encouraged by that response. There is hope, and we can. It's up to us. We really can. So right now we'll take a couple of questions.
Okay, the first question is, are you hopeful about the new administration, aka Trump?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not even a citizen, so I couldn't even vote. But so, then this was really the first experience that I had in the U.S. with the election. Before I lived in Mexico, so my husband tells me this wasn't normal. So I don't know the kind of campaign on both sides that was. It was bad. It was insulting. It was getting into points of really, really low debate. There was no content. We didn't talk about, okay, we're gonna get jobs, but how? We're gonna kick out all the Mexicans. Okay, how? Everything was on the surface, and we didn't get to go lower at all in any of the debates or anything. I knew that I was not going to be happy with either of them because Clinton also had a lot of problems. On the life issues, it was going to be really bad because we already had 8 years of the Obama administration. And again, this country is one of the most powerful countries in the world. And as so, they have very, very important influence in the policy that's made in other countries. And right now in Latin America, we're having to push back against a lot of this, trying to get abortion legalized in our countries and a lot of other things that are against the culture of life. So at least in the global perspective on the life issues, I do think we're going to get a little bit of breathing space. We're not going to get all of that money that the Obama administration was giving to organizations that were really just promoting abortion. One example is Obama, his father was from Kenya, and Kenya just had a new constitution done in the last years, and he made sure that abortion was in that constitution and it was allowed, and it went through. So that's just one example. Then at the UN, I've seen terrible, terrible negotiations of countries in Africa that need tents. It's not really a tent, but it's like a little bit of a mosquitero. I don't know how you say that. Net, mosquito net, thanks. So they need mosquito nets for malaria because they have really bad health issues with malaria, and they just need those nets, and the babies and the kids will be protected to not get the mosquito for them to be infected. So at the UN, the U.S. administration was saying, okay, we'll give you the money for the nets, but you're going to have to allow for abortion in your country. And I remember I called he was just my boyfriend then. I was just so angry. I was like, oh my God, I hate your country. I can't believe they're doing this. Like, this is life-saving. These are mosquito nets that these people need, and that really this country does not have the money to pay for it, and you're going to exchange it for abortion. So what do we do here? Do we say, like, tell the delegate to say no, so you don't get the mosquito nets and good luck with the epidemic of malaria, or you're going to have to say yes, but then you're going to have to allow for abortions? So at least on that, we're getting a really good UN ambassador. She was a governor, I don't remember what state right now, but she's very pro-life. So on that, I think we're going to have a little bit of breathing space with this administration. Also, the Vice President Pence has a really great track in pro-life and pro-family and pro-marriage. So in all of that, I do have hope that we're going to be doing better, not only in the US again, but in Latin America and Africa and Asia, pretty much all over the world. On immigration, sadly, I do think it's going to be hard. We're going to be getting into a little bit of harder times. Again, Obama wasn't the example because under him, there were more deportations than under any other president. So he can't just claim like I'm pro-immigration because that's not true. So that's why we need to be informed. Like, whenever someone tells you, yeah, the Democrats are much better because they're pro-immigration, that's not true. Here are the numbers. Obama sent back home a lot more people than Bush did. Okay? So we already had it hard on immigration, but I do think we'll get a little harder. So that's why I'm telling you right now we can't take any risks. If I don't have papers, or if I know someone that doesn't have papers that's not legal, you really don't want to get into any trouble. You have to be excellent and beyond. And like that, you will get two purposes served. One is you're not going to get in trouble. And the second is we're going to give back our best.
Tess? This is a bit of a two-parter here. The first part of this is, what rights do fathers have on an unborn child?
So here in the States, sadly, none. So if your girlfriend gets pregnant and she doesn't want to have the baby, but you want to keep the baby, she can have an abortion. Because it's her body, her rights, and the men literally don't count. So that's something else that needs to change. Because the father should also have a saying that he wants to make sure the baby is born, and if she doesn't want to take care of the baby for whatever reason, he'll be responsible and take care of that baby. So we also need men in this fight a lot, because you're being overlooked completely. You really pretty much can't do anything. You could try maybe going to court, but almost in every state you would lose. So you, again, don't want to be in that circumstance. You don't want to be fooling around. You don't even know how this girl thinks. You don't know who she is. You don't want to be in this circumstance.
The second part is, what role can men play in the fight for life?
Again, very, very important. So one would be show up and be at the March for Life, be in any kind of volunteering program that they have, like the 2020 project. Don't be scared. Most of the time it's going to be women, but it's okay. We need more men. And in a personal level, you can just think, I don't know, whatever you are, if you're an engineer, if you're a lawyer, if you're just starting high school, depending on the degree of your life or where you are right now. We have really great examples here at Corazón Puro and Latinos por la Vida. We have Omar, we have Guillermo, we have Santiago, who's in media, that are also fighting for culture of life. So that will be one that will be very specific in helping out in the fight. And the second one will be just be responsible in your choices. You know, I remember going in Mexico to high schools, to girls' high schools. I mean, like, it's really sad now how nowadays girls don't make sure that, you know, whoever you're going to give your whole self is the guy that will get in his knee and ask you to marry him. that's not in our minds anymore as women, to be conquered by a real gentleman. But there are gentlemen out there. For any single ladies here, don't despair. They're out there. So for men, that too, be a gentleman to your sisters, to your friends. You might get to the point of maybe even love that, but in the end, the winner will be that guy. Because we also need that. We need to see that. We need to see the guy that opens the door to the girl, brings flowers. We need that. Makes life better for everyone, for him and for her. So I also think that, and that's in us. That's in our culture. Like I remember when I moved here, a lot of things changed in how life is, and that was one of them. When I would come here for summers or other things. And I remember going out and, I was waiting outside the car and the guy would just not open the door. And I was like, oh, I have to open it myself. So, and as girls, expect that because you deserve that.
Okay, our next question. It is so important for us to be at abortion clinics to pray and counsel women. Do you know statistics of Latinos involved in this? How can we get more involved?
Yeah, I have no idea on the statistics of that, really, but it is very, very important. Again, as Guillermo was saying, the March for Women yesterday, the importance of it. So, I don't know if you saw, for sure you saw it on the news. It was everywhere. It was in Chicago, in New York, in Washington, in the main, Los Angeles, in the main cities, not only in the United States, but in the world. It was. I wasn't expecting it was going to be that big. So they are covering it up as rights for women. Again, this term is very difficult to sometimes know, should I go there or not? Because normally rights for women equals abortion. So yesterday when I came to New York, I was taking the bus from D.C., and I was like exactly in the area where all these women were gathering. And you only needed to see their signs. My body, my rights. And then other things that I don't want to repeat because they become too vulgar. Again, we don't want to do that. We don't want to get into that level of, protest or of messaging. But why are they so angry? Why are they going out all over the world? Because we're winning the fight, and we don't see our part in the news. We don't see these huge marches for life. There was also a huge march in Mexico City 2-3 months ago for family, and you could see the Angel of Independence and a huge march of people that were for marriage. So they're so angry because what's working, it's not the legal part, because in the legal world, in the laws, not a lot has changed to protect life. There's been some efforts in some states that have been successful, but in reality, it hasn't been the law. It has been grassroots, which means the people outside the clinics praying, the people in adoration praying, the crisis pregnancy centers all over the United States that give women another option. So those are the ones making the difference, and they are the ones that are changing the culture. And I didn't bring those statistics, but next time you can look for them. You can see how abortion has been going down little by little. We would want it to be a little bit faster and more, but it is going down. So normally wherever you are, there's going to be a crisis pregnancy center. You can call there, and there's a lot of need for Spanish speakers, because a lot of girls call that don't speak English, that just got here and they're pregnant and they need help. And here there's this woman answering only in English, and they just can't communicate, and then this girl ends up in Planned Parenthood. So we really need help in people that can answer the phone in Spanish or can help translate to give out these services, or to be outside the clinics. They have the 40 Days for Life also, that it's a very good experience too, to be there just praying. Some of the girls might be able to come near you and talk about it, or just be a testimony out there and pray. So it's also a great experience. Again, it's not for everyone. Everyone has a different calling. Everyone has a different way of wanting to do things. So we can all get involved in different ways, but these are just ideas of how we can going. But the most important is like, I know that I will defend the life no matter what. Like I hear my neighbor, I hear my niece, I hear my sister. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna stay silent. Because if I stay silent, this woman is gonna end up in an abortion clinic. That's the most important work we can do. Just us in our community, in our homes.
Okay, next question. What is the executive order called Mexico City Doctrine? Is Trump going to sign it?
Yeah. I'm happy it has the Mexico City name. But so this, I don't really know a lot of the legal terms and issues here in the U.S. I studied law in Mexico, but I can tell you a little bit about it, but I would prefer if you just go online and find a little bit more. But the Mexico City doctrine says that no tax money can go to any organization or any department that's going to promote in any way abortion outside the United States. So if this gets signed, so this was signed when Bush was president, he signed it. So no money could go for that. Of course, Obama took it away. So that's when we get all the millions going into different organizations around the world that are pushing for abortion. And then again, because abortion is an issue that's ugly, Congress was able to pass this and say, okay, in the States is one thing, but outside the United States, we cannot be pushing for this with the money of the taxpayers. Again, it's our money. It's what we are giving our government. So they're saying yes, that Trump will definitely sign it. I do hope that Pence, the vice president, will make sure that happens. So we're just going to have to wait and see in the news if he does. But they're saying that, yes, he's going to sign it. So it will give us a lot of breathing space in the other countries to not have to be fighting against giants, because they're giants with a lot of money, but we're still winning. So
The next question is, what if you're 15 and your parents kick you out of the house? The legal age to work is 16, and you're struggling. Do we still have the right to judge young girls wanting to have an abortion?
no, we never have the right to judge in any circumstance. But there's so many other options. Again, we can't just close our eyes and think that's it, that's the end of the world, because it's not. There's a lot of organizations out there that are willing to help you out with rent money if you can't work legally, of course. With medical care, there's a lot of free medical care out there too for people that can't pay for it. There's that option, like you're not going to have the baby in the van. It's not true anymore. There's homes where you can go and live. I don't know if any one of you watched the movie with Vanessa Hudgens. I don't remember what's the name of it. But Give Me Shelter is a very, very good example of a real story of a girl that, again, she was a teenager. She had a terrible, terrible life. Mom was always in drugs, and she grew up pretty much between the street and her home. Her father abandoned her. There's a lot of very terrible and very sad stories out there. And again, yeah, we cannot judge if it's her or if it's any other kind of story, but there's other options always. So this girl, in the end, there's really a very hard scene where she went out of her home. She knows she's pregnant. Her mom kicked her out, and she doesn't know what to do. And she's outside, and it's raining, and she has not eaten, and she's pregnant. She needs to eat. And she goes into the garbage and looks for food there. We don't want our women to have to do that, okay? Because we're here for that. So in the end, she's able to find out that there's this home, and actually they have it in Maryland. It's the real place where they take you in, and you can stay there, and they give you food, and they give you shelter, and they'll help you out. So there's so many other possibilities. Don't think that you will have to end up in the street, because that's not true. And that's what we need to know. Okay, where is my closest shelter in my community that I can send if anyone needs it? Like, I'm ashamed, but I don't even know in my community, where can I send a girl? I would have to Google it. But there's options. There's always options. And if she can't keep the baby, again, she's not prepared to be a mom, and she won't be able to take care of the baby, there's so many parents that want to adopt. So, again, there's options.
remember speaking to this young lady that she was married, she had one child, and she couldn't have any more. And she wanted to adopt. Believe it or not, it costs us like $10,000 to adopt a child.
Yeah, that's another whole issue that we could talk about, adoption, and there's a lot of good things that we could be working on in that too. It should not be that difficult. It's a difficult balance because you can't give a child to whoever comes to the door and says, I want to take care of a kid. You know, you have to go do the background check and do all of that, but we also don't want it to be that expensive or take 3 years or 4 years or, you know, so that's another very important issue that has to be solved because it's not just in the US. We also have it in Mexico where or it becomes too expensive. So what happens with people that don't have a great income but they can't be parents, but they also could adopt a baby. So yeah, that's another issue that has to be talked about and has to be in the agenda, but it wasn't in the agenda at all. And in any debate or in anything, we didn't even talk about the family in any debate.
The following question, is using protection a form of abortion?
So that would take a whole hour. Because there's, well, the word protection, to start with, I mean, yeah, there's times where if you take certain kind of hormonal contraceptions, or pretty much the day after pill, is it the day after? Okay. Morning after, I always say it directly to Spanish, in Spanish is la píldora del día siguiente. So the day after pill. That yes, they can have an abortifacient effect, yes. But I don't want to generalize that all of them will have that effect, but some of them do. They can have an abortifacient effect, yes.
Are there any more questions in the audience? One more. We're going to take one more question. No. Okay. We'll just go ahead and, due to time, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone who tuned in on the live stream from wherever you tuned in, Philippines, Mexico, Texas. Thank you so much for listening to this special message from our speaker. We invite you to join us again on February 19th. And we're just grateful.
Bring a friend, February 19th. If you had a good time today, if you enjoyed listening, then bring somebody along to enjoy the experience.
Amen. All right, you guys, signing out on live stream.